The bounty hunters. 5 and 3 are just the beginning. 8, 12, 6, and 9 are all revealed, and all of them share the same story. They are all supposedly the first successful clone, and there weren't any others after them. Showing the video of 5 and 3 meeting had gone a very long way to explaining the situation and getting the other children to come with them. 5 is the surgeon. 3 is the metallurgist. 8 is an accountant. 12 is a geologist, and 9 is the most accomplished chemist with a focus on pharmaceuticals. The sheer breadth of the skills had them baffled. Ica Grace was not known for her accounting or geology skills, nor was she accredited in metallurgy. Thankfully, with how extroverted 8 and 3 are, all of the children are talking and swapping stories, especially when only Cindy and Snaky are in the room with them as the people they're most at ease with. 8 stories of numerous different funds she was in charge of managing is where their biggest lead is. The laws she's citing refer to the registration and insurance of a large but relatively slow ship. One not rated for outside the system. Furthermore, the specific bylaws she registered it under are exclusively in a single city on the planet. Just listening to her gives them a make, a model, and the full-on address of a Triloran-class inter-system freight ship. Effectively a privately owned U-Haul on the ship scale of things. Litha and Onyx head down this time, as despite being a Canador who's hell for leather and a gigantic synthetic Nagasha, they still stand out less than most men. Oh my. The men really must not be expecting trouble if they're letting us go down. Onyx notes as she walks towards the rental garage. Apparently, 8 had managed to get a threat of squatters' rights in there if the rent kept going up to have a freeze put on it, which was the kind of legal wrangling that you'd usually need a particularly twisted lawyer for. It's adorable that they're so protective of us, so mindful, Litha adds, especially that we're both soon-to-be mothers. Soon-to-be nothing, I already am, Onyx replies as she watches Litha casually hack and open the electronic lock on the main door. Well, yes, but there is a difference between adopting and giving birth, Litha answers as they both behold the simple-looking shuttle. Oh, for goodness sakes, it's a good thing I've already laid my egg. She shrinks down from a height where she can look Litha in the eye into a tiny figure that with her tail is maybe 6 feet long at most, making her even smaller than the ship with undersized entranceways. It's interesting that little 8 mentioned nothing about the fines that would follow for a ship like this to be so inaccessible to other races. Onyx notes, I mean, hell, I know a fair amount about them. A lot of the really easy and early bounty hunting work is to escort violators like this in front of local administration that slaps a fine on them to recompense the mechanics needed to legally widen the ship hallways and entrances. Well, laws for all ships to be capable of functioning as emergency evacuation vessels aside, Miss Grace wasn't too good at password protection or computer programming, Litha says, before slipping into the ship. Keep a lookout, please. Well, it's not like I can follow you in there. Onyx counters and Litha giggles as she vanishes both around a corner and from the visible spectrum entirely. The ship is very easy to navigate, and it takes her moments at most to reach the main cockpit, and she immediately goes at the computer panels in the walls. She has no interest in the official ship's log or registered flight paths. Things like that are so easily edited or replaced as to be completely worthless when investigating anyone with any form of subterfuge awareness. No, she's after the black box, as humans call it, the record core to the rest of the galaxy, something that's legally required in all ships and shuttles. Every time it hits a comm, buoy the core registers its location and the date and time. You need to be in wild space for the record core to not know exactly where you are at all times. Of course, they can't be accessed by anywhere but directly to the core itself. That the reliable devices could be entered as court evidence was a bonus. She shifts aside the protective outer shell of the record core, and plugs in a hard drive to download a full copy. It takes only seconds to download and fills up less than 1/10 of the hard drive. That was quick, Onyx notes as Litha slips out of the side. As if I needed to take my time. It's a simple hookup and file download. Children do this to share their favorite songs with friends. Litha answers as she returns to full size and holds out the hard drive. Fair enough. Still, want to pretend you're like the boys and a big secret agent snake? Onyx's tone is teasing and playful. Oh? Litha asks. Well, there's a whole ship to case. I have a playlist of human spy music. Want to have fun? How old are you? Litha asks the Canador. Couple 100 years. I don't really keep track. I just get rejuvened whenever my joints start creaking. Onyx answers honestly. You don't know? What year is it again? 14th Eon, 51. Not the universal date. Galactic Fed. I was born in 893 current epoch. Onyx says shortly. Oh, you're a little over 200 exactly. It's 1094 current epoch, although there is debate on ending the current epoch and moving into the next. Litha realizes and Onyx makes an interested sound. So what are they going to call this one? The rise of humanity is being passed around a lot, Litha says, and Onyx snorts before throwing her head back to laugh. Oh, come on, they're fun and all, but what have they really done? Onyx asks around some laughter. Oh, they must have some amazing politicians twisting all sorts of ears to really up themselves and their reputation. One of them was named a Grand Patriarch, an extremely rare occurrence, Litha says. Really? What happened? A species known as the Jalic bird was placed under protective status and observation. One of the humans hunted alongside some members of them and taught them axiom-based communications. It's caught like wildfire among the species, and they leaped ahead several generations in species-wide development. Not bad, pretty good even, but there are so many other things that have happened and can happen still. Numerous criminal cartels, what were those pirates called? The ones that got entire worlds with axiom control? Onyx asks, and Litha snorts in amusement. The Dark Cabal? Kind of hard to use them as a comparison if you're forgetting them already, Litha says. Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it? The Dark Cabal was a small but vicious group of pirates, and they did way more than the humans have. We're just seeing a lot of it because we're in the middle of it. Now, don't get me wrong. They're interesting and fun, but I don't think it's an epic-defining event. Well, it's still happening. See if your opinion shifts in the next 10 years. That's about how long it takes to form a proper opinion on something. Litha answers, and Onyx thinks. Well, they are a pretty enduring people. If they keep up this insane pace, they might make it. But getting an entire age named after you, something else they'll have in common with my own kind. Onyx's voice turns husky at the end of that statement. Oh, and the Dark Cabal almost did get the title. There was a lot of historical debate about it. In the end, it was decided against encouraging them, Litha says. I suppose it would have been. Onyx begins, and they both pause at the unmistakable sound of a ship powering up. Was there anyone in there? No. Step away from the ship and don't endanger your child, Litha says, shrinking back down and darting inside. Mine? What about? Onyx begins before she realizes it's pointless and takes a big step away from the now hovering vehicle. The ship slowly begins to take off with the door automatically closing, but it stops halfway out of the garage. Onyx's communicator goes off. Got control of the ship? Yes, and now I feel silly for not checking if it had any automated systems. Litha returns. Also, the scheduled trip is labeled delivery and is heading out to one of the moons of the nearby gas giant, Albrith 2, and its moon A23. They run out of names for it? They apparently mined it out of all its tritite, and all that's left is trace elements, an abandoned mining station, and lots of ice. It was left to rot after it was determined that salvaging it would cost more than the actual materials. Really? Recent policy changes required entire organizations to be hired to scrap a project that large, so it was estimated as way over budget. Letha answers. Still, this is marked for delivery. Mind standing near the cargo door? Certainly. Is there anything interesting? Well, it likely has a cargo, doesn't it? Litha asks as the doors open and Onyx's eye ridges go up. We got something. This is a full delivery to that moon, Onyx says as she steps into the almost entirely filled cargo bay. What's in there? Litha asks as she slowly backs up and lands the shuttle. Nutrient substitutes, industrial quantities of 3 types of nutrient substitutes, paste, granules, and bars, Onyx reports, meaning there's something she's keeping alive on the moon. The moon itself will supply a fair amount of water as well. So, what could she have been making that's so dangerous that she need to create it off-world when she had those horrible things slithering around? I don't know. She has no issue with abominations, cloned slaves, and billions of deaths. Why would she even bother hide things or sustain things after she was done with them if it was her original lab? Litha asks. I don't know, but we found what we're looking for. Can you get this entire shuttle up to the chain breaker? It should fit in our main cargo bay, and we need more time to pick it apart. Onyx asks. Good idea. Hop out and take the ride back with your husband. You've earned a little alone time with him. Pfft, we get nothing done. Just looked through a vehicle, no fight, no heavy lifting, nothing, Onyx says, and there's a bit of laughter from Litha. And we still got more done than the boys. No exciting car chase or dealing with crazy maimed Lydris. Did you hear about what happened to her? No, I didn't. Severe cognitive damage. She learned about the folly of naming the towns and cities pale generators were in the hard way. She had to cut off and cauterize the bodies of her destroyed selves away from the main body or risk infection. Couple that with a known paranoia streak, she was in a horrible place. Litha explains, and Onyx lets out a high-pitched whistle. Poor woman, she's getting a proper touch of healing now, I hope. The physical wounds are being washed away, but the mental ones? Trauma and psychosis take a lot longer to sift through than any amount of physical harm, Litha says softly. That sounds like experience talking. I've spent much of my life on a pirate station trying to bring the good word of the synthetic ascension to them. I've seen what hard living and death can do to the mind of the survivors. And if that death was a part of you, your other minds, if you died but didn't, I can scarcely imagine the sheer trauma she's gone through, Litha says. Well, hopefully with everything clearing up, she'll have the peace she needs to settle down. And if it's not peace, she needs, well, maybe sending her somewhere else would be good. Staying on Albrith after everything that happened is probably the worst thing the poor woman could do, Onyx says, and there's a note of finality. That's certain. Now are you out of the cargo bay? I'm about to close it up, Litha asks. Just waiting for you to clear out before I walk off myself. Sure you don't want to wait with me? Litha offers. Pregnant or not, I'm still a Canador. You need to be a special brand of crazy to attack me. Onyx dismisses her concern. Yes, because the mad cloner and her insane experiments are the peak of sanity and rationality. All right, point, but Grace is dead and the fight's moving to another world entirely. Moon, technically, but in orbit of another world entirely. I think I'm safe, Onyx assures her. If you say so, you're the one who knows the risks better than me. I'm fine. Go. Onyx bids her and the ship takes off without further protest. She's still so very much a civilian. If trouble finds me, then it'll find me ready. Duh. She leaves the lot singing an old, half-remembered song. Not that such a thing narrows down the list. Her music collection was vast enough that millions of songs count as old and half-remembered at this state. Then there's a rush of movement and a greater desert Nagasha in full war paint holds a pair of weapons to her. Your money or your... She begins, but Onyx is already in motion. 5 broken Nagasha arms and a humiliating lecture on picking your damn targets. Later, Onyx walks away from the idiot with a spring in her step. The attempted mugging having actually improved her mood rather than detracted from it. Nothing like a local idiot to remind you that you're still a tough bitch.